Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. For those tuning in on the simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X, we're glad you all could be with us today. Going to bring in our friends over on IG so they can be part of our chat. And last but certainly not least, going to connect with our friends over on Amazon Live. Have a familiar face that's joining us for this segment, which I'm very excited about for sure. We're excited to welcome back Tina Siemens to our broadcast. Tina, of course, is the author of 3 Amazon bestsellers. We're going to talk to her about those, but also what it's been like for her to share her love of history with others. One of the ways she's been able to do that is through her work with the West Texas Living Heritage Museum there in Texas. But she also has something very special she's debuting later this year. We're going to talk to her about as well. For you guys joining us on the Amazon side, welcome. I'm going to type you guys in a quick welcome message. You'll see all of Tina's books there in the carousel, either on the side or down below. Tina, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always fun to know that there's a booking on my calendar that will be Amazon Live or Words I Choose to Live By or one or the other.
That's right. And thanks for mentioning that. And Tina also, of course, is the co-host of Word That You Live By, which you also will be saying later on. So Tina, a very big start to the year for you. So we're excited to have you on for your first interview with us of 2026. I mean, you had such a big 2025. I mean, you got national attention, international attention there at the museum in 2025. Of course, you celebrated the anniversary of the West Texas Living Heritage Museum, the second anniversary there. You, of course, released another book that I so happen to have here, Post Oak as well. Talk to us about that reflection, Tina, as we begin this year. What has it been like for you to think about all those great things you were able to do?
I needed a year to reflect on individually things that happened because so many great things, some difficult things, but it is in those
Mm.
difficult times that we learn and we grow. I listened to a message this morning, and he said that when you open up a 50-gallon fish tank, you size it according to how big the fish will grow, not the size they are when you first put them in there. So that growth happens over time. And I just thought, what a concept. That's kind of what 2025, there was a lot of growth that happened in my life. And I'm so grateful that the tank was big enough for that growth to experience and to make it come alive.
Yeah. Tina, I'm so glad you mentioned that about growth because one of the things you and I were talking about before we went live here, it was in 2019 that the world got to know you because of this book, your very first book, Seminole Some People Never Give Up, where you chronicle your own family's history as well. You followed that up, of course, by The Little Standards That Could. But could you have imagined in 2019 when you wrote this book
No.
that you would now be giving interviews all over the world, hosting your own show, having a museum, and now creating a platform to bridge different communities?
The dream was there, but had I ever imagined it to come true? No, I would not have. And that book started out as it should be just a memoir from my own family, my children and future generations. And
Mhm.
then it became to looking like a book form. And I'm so grateful that I followed the advice of people around me that said, why don't you publish that? And
Mm.
here we are. I've heard from, like you say, around the world, people that identify with that story because even though it's my family's names in it, the places we traveled, but it's so similar to the journey that other people have traveled. And that's what makes the bridge of connection. And so grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah. And I think for myself, Tina, as I have read your books, of course, and had conversations with you, I mean, your own personal growth has been so undeniable. I mean, I remember the conversation you and I had in 2024 when we were in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and you had just received an award for the Little Santas That Could, and I was asking you about being able to say you're proud of yourself. I love the fact that in that amount of time, how it does seem like you're more embracing your own achievements and your own success. Is that what it feels like for you too, that it is becoming something more comfortable?
Absolutely, because I am identifying it as my personal gifts that God has given me, and that
Yeah.
in that gift, I am able to give it to somebody else. And that's the power of multiplication. Once I
Mhm.
recognize that this is something that I was born to do, to
Mhm.
share with others the love of history and how it has affected my personal life, that just elevated it to another level of this is a duty that I have by God placing that desire and that ability into me. Now it is my duty and privilege to share with others.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's such a great thing, I think, for people to be able to realize. And another thing, talking about the museum that's going to be celebrating its third anniversary this year, you also do what I try to do, Tina, and this is what I try to tell other people. You start where you are. All of us would love to have this grand everything, right? But we all know, like I tell people with the magazine, 20 years
Mhm.
ago, the magazine started literally in my parents' living room. I was putting it together. We still had dial up at that point. it, and now to see where we are today, you really adapted that same principle when it came to the museum. Talk to us about that, because you've had, again, people from all over now visit there in Seminole, Texas. What has that been like for you to see that by starting where you are, how not only have you been obedient to your purpose, but also introduced people to that purpose through the museum?
Wow, had I not said that prayer that morning when I was on my knees, if 2023 was the year that I could finally see my 20-year dream come true of opening up a museum, I had jumped through different hoops and asked around and prayed about, but it just didn't fall into place. And here it was. If this was the year that I would be able to find a building just to start. I knew that my grand blueprint that I had ready for quite some time was just not achievable at that moment. But to find a place where I could start. And I was praying in the very building where the museum's now, uh, almost ready to celebrate the third anniversary. And
Mhm.
is it ideal as a museum? Absolutely not. But I've had so much joy, joy of tears of joy, tears of sorrow, tears of things that are bringing out the stories about the history of the place. So if I had not been willing to pray that prayer, because so often we don't have because we don't ask. Matthew 7:7.
Mhm.
And so for me to ask, and while I was on my knees, that answer was given to me right there. Start with what you got and where you're at. And I asked John, my husband, and he said he gave me the blessings. And by June of 23, we had the grand opening of the West Texas Living Heritage Museum. Wow,
Wow.
what a journey.
Yeah. And I think too, Tina, it goes to being able to show people what's possible. You and I have been examples of that, I think, in so many different ways. I want to highlight again, I was just highlighting a Seminole for our audience on Amazon, but I want to go back and highlight the book, your newest book that came out last year, Post Oak. Talk to us about this book. Why was this book so important for you to be able to write and to share with the world?
I was able, through key people that God placed in my pathway, connect the dots of not only my family's history, which you'll read about at the end, how that interlocked and bridged the story of the last Comanche chief, Quanah Parker. And this story was a difficult story to write because it has so many dark chapters in our history. But at the end, salvation is possible for anyone that accepts it. And that is what bridged the story of my museum, locally, Texas wide, nationwide, and worldwide, because I have people from across the ocean emailing me that they have always read about Quanah Parker and how they've enjoyed Post Oak. So it's
Mm.
been a wonderful journey to connect those dots.
Yeah. We have had these conversations now over the years, Tina, and I think it's so fascinating to me that we live in a time where people are so distrustful of individuals. We live in a time where fear seems to be so prevalent rather than just love.
Mhm.
But also, I think not understanding. I think that is the big thing. You have in your books, whether it's Seminole, The Little Sinners That Could, or even the newest book, Post Oak, you've kind of dealt with those topics in your work. What has that been like for you to see what's happening today? And what do you think we can learn from the history you've shared in your books when it comes to it?
Well, I think the number one thing is learn. Be willing to learn. Be willing to listen to somebody else. Because once you learn their story, their point of view, then the similarities are so much greater than the differences. And so the acceptance is so much better once you learn why a person thinks. Why does Tina Siemens like history? What is? Once you learn the reason why, then all of a sudden those differences don't matter as much. And so
Mhm.
acceptance of if we are from a different era, and that's again what I heard this morning is it doesn't matter how who the parents that God chose for me and you to have, or the
Mhm.
place where we were born. It was
Yeah.
designated for such a time as this. And so
Mhm.
embrace that, and you will find your own identity. And once you've done that, the pathway is just wide open for you to
Yeah.
travel forward on.
Yeah, it's such a great point. For those who are just tuning in, welcome. You're watching Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm excited about my conversation with Tina Siemens. She's an Amazon bestselling author. She has 3 books here on Amazon. Seminole, Some People Never Give Up, is her very first book. You all can see it here. Then she followed that up with Little Sandals That Could highlight it for you guys on the Amazon side. And then her newest book is called Post Oak. We're talking with her about her big year in 2025, but also what it's been like for her now going into this year to be able to continue the work she's been able to do. And Tina, there's something you and I have been talking about for a while. And I'm so excited about this because we had a conversation at the beginning, I think the beginning of this year or at the end of last year, about you, as I mentioned, you're the co-host of Word That She's Lit By with me here on Amazon. But 2026 is going to see the year of your hosting your own podcast. How does it feel to be able to step into this new territory?
Talk about growth right there by leaps and bounds. I mean, if it wasn't for the encouragement of yourself and so many others that I can do this, I would not be able to do that. And God, again, placed it on your heart, placed it on so many others, uh, former hosts of Words I Choose to Live By.
Mhm,
People, if we start listening to what others see in you and
mhm,
me, then the possibilities all of a sudden seem much more attainable. And
mhm.
so I'm excited to nervous, but excited to step into a higher level of outreach, because with the internet, uh, we can just reach an audience that we would have never been able to reach
Mhm.
if we needed to go there in person. So I'm so grateful for what's to come,
Yeah.
because my word that was given to me at the beginning of this year was shift. There's going to be
Mm,
shifting. And
mm.
so I just know that God is fixing to do some things big, and I'm ready to embrace it.
I love that. I love hearing you say that, Tina. So let's talk about Word That She's Lit By. That is one of the things he said yes to, which I appreciate. We started off with with 2 other co-hosts, Melissa Banks and Dr. Velma Bagby, it was with yourself and me. Now, of course, it's just you and me. What has that been like for you to see your own growth even with that? Because I love the fact that you were really making the show your own, which was always my hope when we realized it was going to be the 2 of us. What has that been like for you to see your own growth in co-hosting a show?
Well, when we heard that those two ladies were not going to be, I thought maybe that'll just be a short season. They'll be
Mhm,
back.
mhm,
But as time goes on, God is directing them in different pathways. And
mhm,
here we are. And so, again, the grace of embracing the role that He has. And at the time when you're in a storm, how will I be able to do that? That's once you're out of that, you realize that was all meant for you, for me to just grow and to get stronger, to build my own faith. That yes, if God calls me to it, He'll walk me through it. And
Yeah.
so I think that's where we're at, and I'm excited about the opportunities that lie ahead.
Yeah. And I know that speaking is one of the things you did quite a bit of in 2025. I know that's something you're excited about, and I'm so excited about that as well. And I think, Tina, you are a great example for people when it comes to, and even what I've tried to do too, doing it afraid sometimes. Doesn't mean you you have
Yeah.
all the butterflies out, but you just still go forward. But Tina, you've been able to inspire so many people. Talk to us about that. Whether we're talking about people there in Seminole, Texas, or people who've met you, thanks to the internet. What has that been like for you to see how other people have seen the growth in you and been inspired by that?
I'm very encouraged to not give up,
Mhm.
because once we have learned or tasted what my responsibility is for existing, like that is such a powerful thing. The breath that I'm drawing every single second
Mhm.
is a gift that God wants me to use to further whatever He's calling me to do. And so if
Mhm.
I go bury that, then I'd be so miserable, because inwardly each one of us has a drive to do the things that God has given us. And so if we try to bury those talents, those gifts, then we make ourselves miserable, and the world is missing out because we are not doing what we ought to do. So
Yeah.
again, I'm just so excited for what's to come, because
Yeah.
I know that if I can't do it, I have people that I can ask. They can come alongside me, and
Mhm.
and I'm so confident that with their help, I'll be able to fulfill the position.
Love
Yeah.
it. Again, everyone, Tina Siemens has been our guest. She's the best-selling author of Seminole, Some People Never Give Up, The Little Sinners That Could, and her newest book, Post Oak. We've been talking with her about the reflection of last year, but also what's happening for her in 2026. As we talked about, she's going to be celebrating the third anniversary of the West Texas Living Heritage Museum. She also will be anchoring her own podcast, which I'm excited about. So, Tina, let our audience know the name of the podcast.
It will be Heritage by Tina. So I'm excited to welcome the people that will come across the pathway and the stories that we'll be able to share.
Love that. And so you'll be seeing more details about that. Tina, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate it. Let our audience know, how can they stay connected with you?
Well, my new website will be up at the end of this week, and it'll be Heritage by Tina. And so connect with me on there, at the museum's website, and also the author page. So looking forward to hearing from you. heritagebytina.com.
Well, Tina, thank you again. Congratulations to you again, my friend, and looking forward to our next chat together.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey,
Appreciate
glad to
it.
do it. Hey, more than welcome. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. If you guys came in late, don't worry. You can catch the podcast after we go off the air. And then, of course, joining us on Amazon, you can get all the books by Tina here as well. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.